Hello and welcome to the PLDC final presentation of Group 72 at SLIIT. Our discussion topic is language comparison in object-oriented programming concepts. In this video, I am going to talk about Python. So before we go into details of our main topic, I will give you some details about Python that seems to be rather interesting. Python's philosophy is to make the code more readable. The creators of Python wanted the language to be remarkably powerful with very clear syntax. Even though Python talk about clear syntax and everything, its usage of indentation to represent block delimiters is rather unusual. Most of the languages use curly brackets or a keyword to represent code blocks. But Python just uses white space, which can be rather confusing, and it's going to reduce the readability of the code. Another special thing about Python is that it has dynamic type checking, which means that most of its type checking is done at runtime. Here, the values themselves have the type and not the variables. That means a variable can be referring to a value of any type. One can say that this can lead to ugly runtime errors and also reduce the code readability. But hardcore Python programmers disagree with this. They say amount of errors made by programmers due to dynamic type checking is rather low. So now let's get into the main topic. Classes and objects. Now let's see how to represent a class in Python. Python uses the class keyword to represent a class. You can see here class keyword and the class name, the colon and statements. Now how do we know the endpoint of the class? Well, Python uses indentation to represent that. I will show you in the code a minute later. Now to get an object, you have object and the name. Object means the name of the object, and the name means the method or variable within that object. Now let's see the Python code for a class. Now this is a class in Python. Class, my class, and there's a variable with value 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and def keyword is used to define a method or a function, and it's going to return a string variable or string value, and there's another method returning another string value. Now we'll compile it and see. Now to get an object of Python, we have to type like this. X means object reference variable, class name with brackets, just like a method, and press enter. Now let's go to values inside the object. Now if you want to print the AA method, we can print it like this, and it's going to print the value returned by the AA method. And next let's see the F method. It's going to print hello world. But I told you before that indentation represent the endpoint of the class, so we'll see how you can see that. Now let's change the code a little bit. Let's close this and let's put it one tab back. Now let's run it and see. Now let's create the same object. X equals my class brackets X. Now here you can see the method AA. That means that method is not inside the class, so you can't get that method. And now if we try to get that method, here you will get an error. That means this method AA is not inside actually the my class. So this means that Python uses indentation to represent the endpoint of the class, but sometimes this can reduce the readability of the code. Another interesting thing about Python classes is that a Python class can get a method which is defined outside that class. Now here you can see this kk method is defined outside of this class, my class, and here the kk is assigned to tt. And now if we run this, and first let's create an object of the class my class, and then let's see. Now here you can see this tt method. Now if we run it, you can see the values coming from outside that class. Now this is an interesting feature of Python. One of the main features in object orientation is the subwoofer inheritance. Now Python also supports inheritance, but in Python, to represent object orientation, it doesn't use any keywords. Instead it uses some brackets. This can reduce the code readability of Python. Now here's how we define a subclass and a superclass relationship. Here you can